There's a street that doesn't exist on any map, yet it remembers every step you've ever taken. Some say if you wander too far on a foggy night, the mist itself will guide you there. The air hums with whispers of names erased from time, and every flickering light hides a memory someone tried to bury. They call it the Forgotten Street, a place where reality glitches, where dreams and regrets breathe together. The walls are alive with static, and the shadows, they don't follow you, they watch you. Nora never meant to find it. She was just running from her past, but here, the past runs faster. Each corner she turned pulled her deeper. Each sound echoed her name like the city itself was remembering her. In this street, you don't just lose your way, you lose yourself. Welcome to the Forgotten Street. Nora Evans had covered strange stories before. Ghost towns, abandoned schools, even haunted houses. But nothing felt like this. The GPS showed a blank spot where a road should have been. Yet when she turned the corner, there it was, Wraith Street, quiet, glowing faintly under the fog. Every house looked old but untouched, like time itself avoided this place. She parked her car and stepped out, camera in hand, air thick and cold. The street sign creaked in the wind, the letters shifting as if alive. Behind her, a voice whispered softly, "You finally found it." Nora spun around. No one was there, only the fog and faint footsteps leading deeper into the mist. As Nora walked deeper into Wraith Street, every step echoed louder than the last. All the houses stood dark and lifeless, except one. At the very end of the road, a single house had its porch light flickering weakly, like a heartbeat in the fog. She raised her camera and zoomed in. The door was slightly open. A shadow moved across the window, too smooth, too deliberate. Her breath hitched. "Hello?" she called softly, voice trembling. No answer, only the creak of the door inviting her closer. She hesitated, then stepped inside. The air shifted, heavier, colder. On the wall hung photos of people smiling. One of them was her. Nora's flashlight trembled as she moved closer to the wall. Each photo seemed to breathe, the faces inside shifting almost imperceptibly, their smiles flickering like candle flames. Her own picture, the one on the end, had changed. The eyes were looking straight at her now. She stumbled back, her camera clattering to the floor. From the hallway, a faint whisper floated through the air. "You shouldn't be here." Her pulse raced. She turned the camera's light toward the voice. The beam caught a staircase leading upward, its steps swallowed in darkness. The whisper came again, closer this time. "Go back." Nora swallowed hard, but curiosity clawed at her. With trembling hands, she lifted her camera and whispered back, "Not until I know who you are." The light flickered, and the whisper answered, "You already do." Nora stared into the antique mirror, her reflection trembling under the faint light. Behind her, the figure appeared again, a blur, breathing slowly, almost human. She spun around. Nothing. The air was thick, charged, as if the house itself was holding its breath. A low whisper brushed past her ear. "You shouldn't have come back." Her heart pounded. "Who's there?" she called out. The mirror flickered. Now the reflection showed the same hallway, but empty, except for a single open door at the far end. The sound of footsteps echoed from it, slow, steady, coming closer. Nora gripped her camera tight and stepped backward, eyes locked on the mirror. "If you want me to see," she whispered, "I'll see." The mirror cracked, a thin line running across her reflection, like a wound. Nora stared at the cracked mirror, her reflection trembling with every flicker of the bulb. A soft whisper filled the air, not from the hall, but from inside the glass. Her own reflection moved a second late, eyes darker, mouth twitching into a half smile. Nora froze. "Who's there?" she whispered. The voice replied faintly, like wind through hollow walls. "You shouldn't have come back." She stumbled backward, camera shaking in her hands. A photograph slipped from her coat pocket, landing near the mirror. It showed the same house, but decades ago, with children standing in front. One of them looked just like her. Her pulse raced. "This isn't possible," she murmured, backing away as the mirror's surface began to ripple like water. Back in the living room, Nora's hands trembled as she checked her camera. The screen flickered, static, then brief flashes of faces she didn't recognize. Old, pale faces whispering her name. "Nora, you came back." Her heartbeat raced. She hit rewind, but every time she did, new voices layered over each other, growing louder. From the corner of the room, the radio turned on by itself, crackling with broken signals. A distorted voice said, "The street remembers." Nora gasped. Glancing at the window, outside, the fog was thicker, pressing against the glass like it was alive. She whispered, "What do you want from me?" The radio hissed back, "The truth before sunrise." Nora followed the faint whisper to the hallway mirror. The glass shimmered faintly, fog forming shapes that looked almost human. She reached out. Her reflection blinked before she did. Heart pounding, she whispered, "Who are you?" The reflection smiled back, but its lips moved differently. "Find the cellar." Suddenly, words began etching themselves onto the mirror's surface. "They're watching through the light." The bulbs above flickered violently, one by one, bursting into sparks. Nora stumbled back, breathing heavily. "Find the cellar." "What cellar?" she murmured. Behind her, a faint creak echoed. The trapdoor under the rug had just shifted slightly on its own. Nora pulled back the rug, revealing a wooden trapdoor covered in dust and strange markings. The hinges groaned as she lifted it open. A wave of cold air hit her face, thick, stale, and heavy. She aimed her flashlight downward. Stairs spiraled into blackness. Each step creaked under her weight, echoing into the void. The walls were damp, lined with old pipes and peeling paint. At the bottom, a dim light flickered, an old bulb swinging above a metal table. On it lay stacks of old letters, sealed with the HOA insignia. Nora whispered, "Why would HOA files be here?" A whisper answered from the shadows, "Because they never left." She froze. A faint figure stood beyond the light, barely human, watching her every move. Nora's breath quickened as the figure stepped closer. The dim light flickered, revealing a man, pale, eyes hollow, wearing a faded HOA badge. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped. Nora held up her flashlight. "Who are you?" He looked around nervously. "Used to be the inspector, before they erased the street." Nora frowned, confused. "Erased?" He nodded. "They wiped us out, the residents, the history, everything." His voice cracked, trembling. "You think you found this street by accident? You were brought here." Her heart pounded. "By who?" He pointed toward the ceiling, toward the world above. "They still watch," he whispered. And just then, the bulb burst, plunging everything into darkness, followed by the slow sound of footsteps behind her. Nora's breath turned shallow as she froze at the bottom of the cellar stairs. The flickering candlelight revealed long shadows crawling across the damp stone walls. A faint whisper came from behind her, slow, uneven, and close. Her trembling hand gripped the candle tighter. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Suddenly, the air turned cold, and she felt a presence standing just inches behind her. Nora pressed her hand against the cold cellar wall. It felt hollow, as if something was hidden inside. She leaned closer, trying to listen. At first, nothing. Then, a faint sound. Someone was whispering from within the wall. The voice was soft, distant, almost calling her name. Nora. Her eyes widened. She stepped back, heart racing. The whisper grew louder, turning into a desperate plea. "Help me, please." She looked around. There was no one in sight. Just the trembling flashlight in her hand. The wall cracked suddenly, a fine line splitting through the plaster. Something moved behind it, a pale hand pressing out from inside. Nora's flashlight flickered as the crack in the wall widened. Dust fell like snow, and a cold wind poured out from the hollow space. She leaned closer, her breath visible in the freezing air. Inside, she saw a narrow chamber, its walls covered with old newspaper clippings and strange symbols drawn in black ink. At the center lay a wooden chair tied with heavy ropes, and on it, a figure wrapped in plastic. Nora's voice trembled. "Oh my God." She stepped forward, the floor creaking under her feet. The figure's head tilted slowly, even though no one had touched it. Beneath the plastic, its eyes opened, white, lifeless, staring right at her. Nora's flashlight trembled as she moved closer to the figure. The plastic crackled with every step she took. Her fingers shook when she reached out, but before she could touch it, a drop of water fell from above onto her hand. She looked up. A thin pipe ran along the ceiling, dripping dark red liquid. Blood. Her breath caught. The figure in the chair suddenly jerked, its head twisting toward her. The ropes snapped like dry twigs, and the plastic tore open. Inside wasn't a corpse. It was a mannequin, with a speaker buried in its chest, repeating her name in a distorted voice. Nora, Nora, Nora. The sound echoed around the walls like a chant. She stumbled back, terrified, realizing someone had set this trap just for her. The distorted voice still echoed. Nora, Nora. But this time, it came from the walls. She pressed her ear against the cold bricks, hearing faint whispers beneath the surface, like people trapped inside. "You shouldn't have come back," the voice said, clearer now. Her heart pounded. She stumbled toward the exit, but the door slammed shut on its own. Her flashlight flickered wildly, and a hidden panel on the wall slowly slid open, revealing a narrow passage lit by red bulbs. She took a trembling step inside. Walls lined with old cassette players, all recording, all whispering her name. At the end of the corridor stood a small monitor, playing security footage of her entering the house hours before she actually arrived. Nora followed the narrow red-lit passage, her shoes brushing over tangled wires. At the end, a small door creaked open into a room filled with monitors, each showing live footage of Wraith Street from different years: 2012, 2016, 2024. Her hands trembled as she saw her own face in every timeline, standing in the same spot, wearing different clothes. A voice emerged from the shadows. "You finally found it," said an old man, seated near a console, his face hidden behind screens. "Who are you?" she whispered. "The one who remembers what everyone else forgets," he replied, turning slowly. His eyes reflected the static glow. "This street was never meant to exist. It's built from memory itself." Nora stepped back, realization striking. Every resident here was a memory trapped on replay. The old man turned one of the screens toward Nora. Her childhood home appeared. "You were the first," he said quietly. Nora's voice cracked. "First what?" He pointed at the screen. A younger Nora was standing outside her house, then suddenly disappearing into thin air. "You died here, Nora," the man whispered. "The night Wraith Street was created." Her breath froze. "That's impossible." He shook his head. The HOA archived every lost memory in this town, every forgotten soul. This street is their vault. Tears welled in her eyes as flashes of her past returned. The crash, the screams, the white light. She whispered, trembling, "I was never alive here, was I?" The man replied, "You were, until they made you forget." The old man's hands trembled as he opened a drawer and pulled out a dusty folder marked Project Wraith. Inside were blueprints, not of houses, but of people. Digital diagrams, memory codes, faces repeated again and again. "They built this neighborhood from mines," he said. "The HOA didn't preserve lives. They replicated them." Nora's pulse raced. "Then who am I?" His eyes met hers, heavy with sorrow. "You're a copy, the last one they made before the experiment failed." Nora's breath hitched. "And you?" He smiled faintly. "I was the first." The lights flickered. Alarms began to echo through the room. "They know you're awake now," he whispered, "and they'll come to reset you." Nora grabbed the folder, heart pounding. Not this time. Sirens screamed through the underground hallways as Nora clutched the Project Wraith folder to her chest. Red lights flashed, painting the walls like blood. The old man shouted, "Go, take the northern exit before they seal it." She ran, heart pounding, air thick with dust and fear. Behind her, metallic footsteps echoed, synchronized, inhuman. Back, figures in black suits, eyes glowing faint white. "Reset her," one commanded. Nora sprinted up a flight of stairs, bursting into the foggy night. The rain hit her face like needles, her breath visible in the cold. She could see the neighborhood again, silent, glowing faintly under the mist. But now she knew the truth. Every door, every smile, every neighbor, a copy. She whispered to herself, "If I'm not real, then why does this fear feel so alive?" Nora stumbled into an old warehouse at the edge of Wraith Street, the folder still in her hands. Inside, the air smelled of rust and dust, and something else, decay. She turned on her flashlight. Rows of chairs filled the darkness, each holding a motionless figure, residents of Crestwood Valley. Their eyes were open, glassy, unblinking. The same silver circles on their wrists pulsed faintly, like dying embers. A flicker of a monitor caught her eye. Security footage looping the same smiling faces of those she'd just seen lifeless before her. Failed synchronization, a voice from the screen repeated in monotone. Nora's hands trembled. They were real, and they tried to erase them. Behind her, a metal door creaked. She turned slowly. The old man from before stood there, whispering, "Now you know what happens when the system rejects you." The warehouse lights flickered as Nora stepped closer to the glowing screen. Words appeared. "System breach detected. Choose, reset or rebel." Her hands trembled. "What happens if I rebel?" she whispered. The old man behind her said softly, "Then you free them, but destroy everything else." Static whispers filled the air. The people around them sat frozen, eyes blinking like machines waking up. Nora's reflection split in two, one perfect and lifeless, the other real, but scarred. She closed her eyes, tears falling. "No more lies," she said, pressing rebel. A blinding white light burst out. The ground shook, walls cracked, screens shattered. Crestwood Valley flickered like a dying signal, then silence, only Nora's fading voice. "We weren't made to be perfect. We were made to be real."